So there was him, there was Pokashevsky. There was some names that were like tough to say. So it took me a while to figure it out.
Mamu Billy.
Mamu
All right.
Billy. All right, we live.
Oh, man. Speaking about the guy who we fell to, Mamu Billy. Who saw this one coming? None other than the Knicks themselves, who looked exhausted tonight. So let's get into it. The New York Knicks entered tonight's battle against the San Antonio Spurs in San Antonio. You know, Chuck's favorite place to find all women. After winning a nice dominant game against the Miami Heat, you thought the Knicks would, go on a winning streak. Me and JD talked about it on our last show. We thought we go, 4-0 this week, maybe even 5-0, including the Dallas Mavericks. But the New York Knicks had something else in mind. Because not only did they have to come from the West Coast trip to New York, but then they had to go travel right back out to San Antonio. So these guys looked gassed as soon as they got off the plane. And man, that first quarter wasn't even close. It was a Karl-Anthony Towns show and nobody else. And then all you started to see was Chris Paul. You started to see Castle. You started to see everybody. You started to see Vassell just hooping like there was no tomorrow. Thought the Knicks would make a little comeback in the second quarter, get this thing down within, striking range around 10 to 15 points. San Antonio Spurs said, nah, because Mamu came out and said, guess what? I'm going to be drilling some threes, baby. And that is essentially how this game went. Even in the third quarter, when we brought this thing back into 10, Mamu came back out here and started to put us away. And so, look, man, this game, I don't even got to go full on into it or what happened throughout all four quarters. Knicks got dog walked in this one. They were exhausted, tired. It was the Karl-Anthony Towns show, and whoever else decided to join. All right, man. So you know what it is. The New York Knicks lost this one 120-105 in San Antonio after, like I said, a thrilling game against the Miami Heat. Now with a letdown against the San Antonio Spurs. Let us know how you feel. Let us know in the chat. All right, make sure to call the Discord tonight. Download the app. Go to the web browser, whatever fits your fancy. I need to hear your takes on what do you think about the New York Knicks. Are we in trouble? Like some of you like to do, man. After every single loss, you seem like we're in trouble. But no, I'm just chilling, man. I'm just chilling tonight. With me on the other side is my guy, Chris LeBron. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Let's get into this. Man. Chris, I thought this was going to be a nice sweep of a week for the New York Knicks. But they had plans. They had plans to say, you know what? We heard JD, we heard Alex after Miami. Not tonight, man. Not tonight. What are your thoughts about this game, Chris?
Oh, man. Mamu Mania.
Mamu Mania. Good Lord. Not Manu Mania. Mamu Mania.
Mamu Mania ran all over us. It just from the jump, it just looked like the Knicks just didn't have it. Just simple pick and rolls. They were just getting beat. No lackluster effort defensively. It was just, rotations. They weren't reacting. It was just all bad from the jump. And then, like I said, it got up to like 27-point lead, 28-point lead. I mean, then they cut it. They teased. They got back. They looked like they were energized, especially, the bench got in there.
Fake comeback.
Fake comeback, right? Especially when Mitch came in, it felt like it was different, but it just felt like, it wasn't going to be our night at all. And, obviously it showed, because to let Mamu let us go, like that's insane. Like, I've seen him have moments, back when he played in Seton Hall and stuff, but I didn't 37 and he 7 from 3. Like it was insane, man. The bench absolutely destroyed us. I mean, I think they had 60 points. Like it was insane. Like they didn't have it today. It showed from the jump.
I mean, you talk about the Spurs bench having 60 points. I mean, 34 of those points came from Mamu. I mean, what a hell of a night for a guy who's a bench player. I mean, this is a team that's typically led by Wemby and, the new acquisition, De'Aaron Fox, who they shut down too, just because once Wemby got the blood clot, hope he's doing well. They said, let's Cooper flag time, baby. We ain't trying to compete no more. But I guess they did circle this game because they remember what happened on Christmas Day, and they said, you know what? We got to get our revenge. And that they did, man. That they did. And the only guy who came up to show out tonight was none other than Karl-Anthony Towns, man. He went 11 of 21 from the field tonight, got the Knicks 32 points, went 2 of 5 from downtown, 8 of 9 from the free throw line, 9 boards, 2 assists, 1 steal. I mean, Cat offensively, we already know what he could do, man. We just know how gifted he is, how efficient he is. And look, to start this game, He went on a 9-0 run by himself. He continued what he did against the Miami Heat in that second quarter. He went 15. I went on a 15-0 run. Said, "Guess what? I'm going to do the same thing again." And this is cool because when you don't have Jalen Brunson and you're looking for an answer, how Brunson likes to set the tone, and then Cat usually sets the tone in the second quarter. It was nice to see, and I get that's the San Antonio Spurs, but yeah, you can't even use that moniker tonight because they beat us. But it's nice to see that Karl Anthony Towns can get activated in a first quarter and doesn't have to wait to like settle in or let somebody else, get into rhythm. I did like to see that, but just nobody else, man. I mean, for most of the first half, you had all the other starters with a donut, like from the field. I mean, like they either went to the free throw line and got their points that way, but when you were looking at the field goal, I think it was until like 3 minutes left in the second quarter where it was like either McBride or OG hit the shot, and it was like, oh, finally, somebody's on the board outside of Karl Anthony Towns from the field. Hallelujah. But that goes to tell you how much of a difficult night it was for the New York Knicks and how tough it was for Cat because we really had to rely on Cat to keep us in this game to make it even like somewhat entertaining for New York.
Yeah. It was at one point, I think OG, Mikhail, and Deuce were like 0 of 11, I think, for
Mm-hmm.
like a few minutes left in the first quarter. So it was just it was bad. And you know, uh Deuce was actually doing really good on Castle too. Like he was actually playing good defense on him. So he used a lot of energy, but like I said, they just didn't have it offensively in that beginning of that game.
No, they didn't. And look, we could talk about, Bridges, OG, picking it up in the second half, even like Josh Hart getting his one bucket where it's like, oh, he finished through contact, didn't get the foul, didn't get the foul call. Most of tonight's scoring came from the bench for the Knicks, which is, an odd thing to say because usually, the bench kind of struggles, right? Defensively, they're fine. Offensively, it could be a mixed bag at time, especially when you have Deuce in the starting rotation. But when you're looking at the stat sheet and you're starting to see, okay, Campaign went 4 and 9 from the field, got us 11 points. Mitch was our most efficient guy, 5 of 6 from the field, gets us 13 boards. A lot of putbacks for him tonight with 11 boards. He's looking good, man. He's looking like he's getting back into rhythm. Played 17 minutes tonight. And then you had Precious, who went 2 of 3. I didn't even think Precious played that well tonight. And then only one shot from Landry, for like the critical minutes of the game. It just goes to tell you what this entire thing looked like. And there was just really no one else in this game that you could just be like, yeah, you know what, this person had a good game. It was just really Karl Anthony Towns. And honestly, the one moment that I was terrified, and you got to start saying, hey, do we just start resting guys at this moment? Is when he was holding his hand in the second quarter, and you're like, oh man, he ran to the sideline, then goes to the back, goes to the locker room. Thankfully, he comes right back out and then plays again. But then you start to see even throughout part of the game, he's holding his hand, he's grimacing. What do you think, Chris? Is this a moment where you got to start considering? Got to start to consider, I should say, just resting Cat until like postseason, or like just figure out which games, or like what are we doing here?
Um, you probably should, but they won't. You
Mm,
know, you know how Tibbs is. It's not going to happen. But you know, I remember just writing notes for the second quarter and just saying bad, bad, all bad. Like they made a little run at the end of the second quarter, but it mostly was bad. And then I saw him hurt his finger, I was like, we can't catch a break right now. Like we need him. We can't do nothing offensively. Like it's been a struggle, especially with no Brunson. But if he's out, where's the offense coming from? We have no one else that can create their own shot. So we need the big man there. And like I said, if he's not there, the production is just so he might need some rest, but man, because it feels like sometimes he's really like carrying himself. Like he feels like there's more than just a finger. There's a bunch of things going on with Karl Anthony Towns right now. There's a lot of lower body stuff that he probably needs a few maintenance days. Kind of like what Denver's doing with Jokic. Just
mm.
like, hey man, we need to shut down the big man because we need him for the long, the run to try to make a championship run. But I don't know if that's going to happen right now. I mean, they probably should because they're locked in at the 3 seed right now. We pretty much got that locked up. So maybe we should give them a few days, but I don't know if that's going to happen. I think they're going to keep playing until the wheels fall off. So but I think he should get a few maintenance days because he needs it.
I see someone in the I saw someone in the chat say let him get to 65 games and then rest him so that way he could be eligible for awards.
Think
That's
about
not a bad idea. When I find that comment, I'll let you know. And I'm sorry I can't remember
think
your.
of that aspect too of the all NBA stuff. Certain these guys,
Hmm.
triggers in their contracts, certain incentives. I didn't think about that aspect too.
Yeah, and shout out to Desmond Drew who mentioned he's like rest Cat when he hits 65 games. Shout out to you for being a franchise channel member, Desmond Drew. And look, that makes sense to say start resting him. I don't think you would see a complete like shutdown to the end of the season, but you gotta get a little creative, man. Like, what games do you want Cat back for to like really rev you up for the postseason? Let's say if they were to start doing that now, if you look ahead, say, hey, do we really need him against Charlotte?
That's what I'm saying. Charlotte, we
Like,
don't. Mm,
now, especially after this, where you lose against the Spurs on the second night of a back to back, and these guys look exhausted. Now you got to go travel out to Charlotte. This little mini road trip, part two that they got going on right now, where you just came back from a West Coast trip. You were gone for what, a week at a few and some odd days, and now you come back home to the Garden for like one day, maybe two, and now you're back out on the road again. I don't know. This is a situation where I'll be like, all right, maybe you don't need him for Charlotte. Maybe you play him against the Wizards to like get back up to seeding. Do you really need him against the Mavs? That team is like on the brink of having to cancel games because they don't have enough bodies right now. I would bring him back for the Clippers. I think that's a good test just to like not a good test, but like just good run for like playoff type atmosphere. You got the Cavs, you got the Celtics, so obviously you should want him back for that. But just like kind of like maintain him towards the end of the season, As you pointed out, you see that he is like everybody's dealing with some sort of injuries. It's 82 game season, man, and even if they're not showing it, they definitely have an injury right now. And this is the whole point of what Mikal Bridges brought up about Tibbs playing a lot of minutes, giving the bench some run, letting them get some rest, get prepped. There's a bigger goal ahead, which is competing for an NBA title, and so that should be the goal to do that. Will it happen? Probably not. This is Tom Thibodeau after all, so I do not expect that to happen. But that's what that should be the game plan, though. But I just don't see it happening.
I mean, just look at what, like I said, well, look what Denver's doing. They shut down the big man. They're like, no, we need, hey, like I said, the bigger picture is a championship. We need you for that. Like with these regular season games, whatever, it doesn't really matter. If we do lose to the Spurs, whatever, it doesn't. We need you for the playoff run. But you know, I don't know.
Hey, we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens moving forward. But let's keep it going, man. Salute to Knicks Nation. Thank you all for tuning in for another KFTV post game live. The New York Knicks lost to the San Antonio Spurs 120 to 105. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. With me on the other side is my guy, Chris LeBron. We're going to talk a little bit of draft today, man. So stick towards the end of the show, okay? We got to talk about some second round prospects. We got the NCAA tournament coming through. All right, St. John's is in the mix. Let's go, baby. We got the Red Storm back in action. All right. Make sure to hit that. All right. Make sure to download Discord. Like I said, I do want to hear your takes. Let's get to the phones right now, man. Let's get to the phones right now. I see we got a few people lining up. So Zach, please unmute your mic, my man. Let's get this conversation rolling. What did you think about tonight's game?
What did I think about tonight's game? It looked like we had cement in our shoes tonight. I mean,
that is true.
like what? I mean, what else can you say? Obviously, Cat came to play. Like, it looks like he's been motivated since the Draymond incident, so that's always nice to see. Mitch got his first double-double of the season, so that was good. It really felt like those were the only two players who came to play. Everybody else looked like they didn't get off the plane. Just they didn't come to play tonight.
Yeah, no one can. It really did look like that. I mean, the way that they just played in the first half was indicative that they were not ready to play at all. I mean, how do you have all of your starters outside of Cat not get a bucket from the field, man? That's just pitiful. I mean, like, and they're missing bunnies too, and missing like shots that they normally make. That's what's even crazier.
Some air balls by Bridges. It was. I think the starters only had like 11 points. Other than Towns, the rest of the starters only had 11 points in the first half.
100%. And that lineup that kids put out there and midway through the second quarter, where they just went on that run. I think it was like Payne, Hart, Achua, and Shamit with a sprinkle of Towns and a Chew going back. I mean, they just killed us on that. That was absolutely terrible of Tibbs. And I'm not a big Tibbs hater, but that lineup just killed us. I think that's when they went up by 28.
Hey, this is gonna be a part of the Tibbs criticism, man. It's just having a pulse, having a feel for what lineups work and what guys have it, and that lineup, I don't know, man. I see that Precious is just souring is being soured on by being soured by the fan base right at this point, or the fan base I should say is souring on Precious just because his play is just not been the same as last year. It's been tough, man, especially in some of these games. Like you see, like he has a good one, and this just like tonight, just head scratching plays.
Yeah, I mean, with Precious, is it that he's not getting enough burn, or is it that he's just lost? I mean, it's kind of like a hit or miss with him, right?
Yeah, it is, and this is just kind of what the thing that it was from in Toronto, Zach. You know what I mean? Like this is just kind of where he was out in Toronto. Like he'd have moments, and then be like, "Hey, do we want to believe?" And hey, there's always a chance, but I don't know. But appreciate the call, Zach. Always appreciate you tapping in. Have a good one, my man.
You as well, guys. Have a good night.
Okay, man.
That was Zach. Shout out to Zach for being a franchise channel member. Let's get to Dwayne. Dwayne, please unmute your mic. What's going on, bro?
Yo, Alex, what's good, bro? Long time. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good, man. How are you doing?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. There's a guy named Chris now. I can't see you. I'm on the Discord. Chris, what's up? I haven't logged into the YouTube in a long time, guys. CP, what up? I don't know where you at, but what up? So
CP's producing the show. He's producing. He's behind the scenes today. He decided to be
on the bench for CP. CP needs some rest. He's playing a lot of minutes. I had to come off the bench.
CP's on the bench. That's not funny. He's playing mad minutes. He's on the tip schedule. That's not funny.
You better believe
it. Yo, I've been watching the team. I haven't tuned in as much. I actually haven't tuned into YouTube in general since the political stuff went down back in November. But I'm YouTube less, but I'm tuning in now. I've been watching the team. Yo, this team is like a gift and a curse, man. Like no one likes the team because the team doesn't play defense until Mitchell Robinson came back. Like Mitch is tuning up the defense a little bit here and there. Like game over game, he improves the defense a little bit. But the team, I don't think people like the team, man. I don't think this team is like feisty enough. Josh Hart's hit or miss. Like what happened to Josh Hart today? What happened to Mikal Bridges today? This is a San Antonio Spurs without Wemby, without Fox, without their star players, and we can't just cruise. We can't just chill. Like what's really good with that? So I don't know, man. This team is not there, man. It's cool, it's fun, it's nice. Like we might get to the second round. I don't know, but this team, JB might come back and crush it, but this team is just not happening for me right now, man. I'm not feeling it, man. Like I can't go. Like I'm having a stressful day at work. I'm like, hey, you know what? Let me tune in for the first time. I'm in New York. Usually I'm in Europe. I'm in New York. Let me go watch the game. Let me go to a pub. Let me tune in. And we lose to the Spurs, bro. That's ridiculous, bro.
So you're not buying this team whatsoever. That's what you're telling me. You're just not.
I'm not buying this team for a championship. Hell no, no way.
Would you have bought last year's team for a championship over this one?
Very good question. Last year's team played better defense, bro.
I can't disagree with that, so but you're not answering the question though, Dwayne. You got to answer the question.
Yes, I would have bought last year's team going further than this year's team.
Okay, there we go. That's what I need to know.
Hartenstein, DiVincenzo, I would have. That said, Bridges is better, right? But we're not utilizing him, bro. When Bridges drops 30 points, it's ridiculous. It's like it's easy for him. It's like Ray Allen out there. But he can't do that night overnight. Why can't he do that? Why can't Ray Allen show up? Because he's not Ray Allen. It's ridiculous. Or is it Tibbs' fault? I don't know, man. I'm confused.
I think there's a lot of things going on, man. I think part of it is like it's year one of this team being put together, so we got to watch this experiment just roll. That's really it, man. I think that's part of it. too. I think it's a lot of. I think there's a Tibbs thing, and I think there's a players thing as well. I think Tibbs doesn't create enough structure for this team to say, hey, outside of Brunson, outside of Towns, I'm going to get you guys activated. And I think when that doesn't happen, it's the onus is put on the players to be aggressive and look for their own shots. And unless like you got some, wildly erratic confidence like campaign, you're just not going to thrive in a system like that. I mean, we're seeing it for guys like, and I know people are going to poo Grimes dropping 40 points, but you see what a person, you can see what somebody can do when they're just given free reign. I'm not saying Grimes can drop 40 consistently on any given night, but you're just seeing his arsenal when given confidence. I think that has always been, an issue with the Tom Thibodeau led team.
Yeah, and it's not he doesn't really call plays. He kind of just lets them roll. He's been doing that since Chicago, like high pick and roll stuff. He just lets the guys do what they. But I also think like Mikal, like when you go from being like a number one, number two option on the Nets, and then you come to the Knicks and you're kind of like the number three, fourth option some nights. That's a tough transition. That's a really tough transition where you're just a corner guy now, when you're used to having the ball in your hand trying to create. So that's also been a
So
tough,
Chris,
yeah.
so Chris, there's been a lot of talk about this Josh Hart to the bench stuff. I don't know how much you guys have talked about it. I don't know if you talked about it last show, but like, what about sending this dude to the bench, man, and giving Mikal Bridges more of the ball, man? Like, that would solve your issue right there, right?
Appreciate the call, Dwayne, and we'll answer that one, but appreciate the call, my man. Always appreciate you tapping in. Welcome back to
Yeah,
joining the
thank you,
show,
Alex.
my guy.
Thank you, bro.
No doubt, no doubt. And Chris, I think I'll let you answer the question. What do you think about the Josh Hart thing? Because like that's always been a topic this entire season. Put Josh back on the bench. Like, what do you think about that?
Josh Hart on the bench. And put Mitch, start Mitch.
Whoever. This is you, man. You're the coach now. You're the coach. Would you put Josh Hart on the bench? And if you're putting him on the bench, who's going into the starting rotation? Is it Deuce McBride? Is it Mitchell Robinson? Who are you deciding?
Oh man. Right now, I mean Josh come off the bench would be better because he can he's a facilitator and he can help create for other guys. And not that we're utilizing a lot of guys off the bench, but I think that would probably be better to have him come off the bench because you could use his playmaking, and get some energy coming off of that second unit. So maybe that would be better. And if we got Brunson in there, man, Brunson Hart, even with Brunson there, yeah, I think I would put him on the bench.
You put Josh Hart on the bench, and you put in Mitchell Robinson in that starting rotation.
I put him in the starting rotation. Yeah.
Okay.
See, because listen, Gobert and Towns, I know people it was soured on in Minnesota at first, but they got to the conference finals. They made it work. They made it work. So we got to see. We got to see if it can work. And try to get some more production off the bench because you got to utilize the bench at some point. So Josh coming off the bench, maybe help rejuvenate. Get something coming off the bench. With his facilitating and all that and the energy, maybe that'll help the bench. Get a little boost. So yeah, I think I would try that.
So then, if in that case, you would have who is it? It'd be Brunson, Bridges, OG, Cat, and Mitch is your starting lineup with McBride and Hart coming off the bench. So that's 6 and 7 right there.
Mm-hmm.
How are you rounding that out? Because you got Campaign and Shaman on the bench too.
Camp. This is why the bench is important. This is why we needed to. Why we need to upgrade the bench big time with some wings and stuff. But I know it's not ideal. It's not ideal because either or it's still going to be tough. But you need something off the bench. You need something. If you have Hart, if you got Hart and Deuce come off the bench, I feel a lot better. But I mean, either way, it's still going to be tough. And listen, I could go all day with drafting and who we should have got with some wings and stuff. But because right now there's no wings. We have there literally is no wings. I mean, Anton Watson is probably we don't have anything. DeLon Wright. I remember someone got really hyped about DeLon Wright coming. I was like, really? And they showed highlights of like 6 years ago. DeLon Wright. I was like, that was a while ago, buddy. He does not have the same DeLon Wright, but yeah, I mean, that's probably what I would do. But not having the wing depth on the bench, that's a killer and stuff. I mean, in my world, I would play Tyler Kolek a lot more. So that's just me, though. So
I think you and a lot of other people
we
would
need
like to see
playmaking.
Kolek.
We need playmaking desperately, and he's one of the better playmakers. He led the country in assists last year. Like, we got to give him a shot. But
Hey, you and everybody else wants to see Kolek out there, even myself. TM, if you could put in the chat the poll of, should Josh Hart go back to the bench? I would like to know what's the temperature check right now on putting Josh Hart back to the bench. Do people want to see the double big lineup? I want to know in the chat right now. Do you want to see the double big lineup? What's the idea if you put Josh Hart back on the bench? Please let me know. All right. And let's keep this conversation rolling. Triple M, my guy. I see you in the chat. Unmute your mic, bro.
Yo, my brother Alex and Chris, what's going on, bros?
Not much, man. How you doing? You sipping on tequila tonight?
Yeah, bro. Look, that's why I had to call in, man. So look, I was actually, I was getting ready for the Knicks Fan TV tryouts, for basketball over
Oh,
the
there we go.
summer. So I actually did not watch the first half, right? So I didn't watch the first half. So then I get home, I put the game on. So I don't even know what's going on. I just see we down and we coming back, right? So
Mm-hmm.
then we doing our comeback, our little fake comeback, and then the fourth quarter comes on. Then Alan Hahn is like, "Oh man, they putting Mamacello in the game." I don't even know who Mamacello is. Like, I don't even know if I'm saying his name right. You know, they putting him in the game, and it's like everybody's scared. And I'm like, man, who is this guy? And this guy completely turns up and goes crazy on us. Alex, Chris, this guy scores 30 points in under 20 minutes, the first player in history to do this. So I had to call in right now because, now I'm starting to sip because I'm like, what is going on right now? This guy is going crazy. And like, I'm confused. Like, I'm frustrated right now. I'm usually a half full type of fan. I like seeing the positives, but I'm tight right now, bro. I'm tight because there's 13 games left in the season. The Spurs are not even trying to win. They put Marcelo back in the game in the fourth quarter. They're not even trying to win this game, and we lose this game. Fellas, what is going on with this New York Knicks squad? Talk to me.
I think part of it is part of the travel, man. I think the travel was a little crazy. Literally come back from West Coast trip. It did not look like these guys wanted to play whatsoever tonight at all. But it's also like this team, man. It's like, the defense and the attention to detail. Like, if you are traveling, like if you've done this much travel and you're ready to compete, you're focusing all in on all the details. And I just think this team, we've seen it too much this season where they can easily lose focus. I mean, look at all the transition scoring that we saw from the Spurs tonight. That's attention to detail. That's just communication. And I feel like when we watch this Knicks team, it's, they're incapable of just doing that for 48 minutes straight on a consistent night to night basis. And that's where, if this offense is clicking, that you don't got to worry about that. You don't got to worry about that defensively. But the thing is that as we even see tonight, and this team is still talented offensively without Jalen Brunson, right? And this is not to appease to the fans or on Knicks Twitter saying that we don't need Jalen Brunson and all that nonsense. That's craziness. But what I am saying is that when their offense isn't going, the defense is just like they just don't have that switch to flip it to be a defensive mindset.
and how many times they let Sandro wide open, like wide open to hit threes. Like it was insane how many times on pick and rolls they were just lost, and Mama Kidishvili just hits wide open threes. Like he also, it was just an all-time shooting like performance. Like it's just like some guys just have it, and he had it, and he only missed one shot. 19 minutes, he went 13 or 14 and hit all seven of his threes. Like it was just one of those nights too where it was just he wasn't missing. And then like Keldon Johnson hit a wild 3-pointer, bank three. Like once that happened, and like I think it went from like a 14-point lead. Like they got back up. It was like, all right, there's nothing we could do. It's just we just got to call it in. Just call it a day, and because it was just once Keldon hit that three, I was like, yeah, it's a wrap. And then Sanjo just making every three possible, and the benches. Bismack had a couple open. I was like, all right, this is getting way too much, and it's just like, all right, there's nothing we could do. This is just got to just pack it in and just get ready for Charlotte because they're not missing. They are not missing.
Put Mamu up there in the rafters with Terrence Ross, with Orlando, Evan Fournier, with Zeke Naji, all those guys,
Alex, he
man.
had, I think I checked. He like the previous 5, 6 games, or like the whole month of March, he had like 40 points combined. And the previous 5 games, he had like 36 points. I think something like that. I could be wrong. The number's a little off, but it was something like that. And then today, obviously 34. So like, this is not like it's not like he's someone he's a regular rotational player. This is
Right.
just they got in the game and just did not miss. Like this is probably not going to happen again for him, or at least for a while. And of course, he did it against us, and it feels like that happens way too much, where we get the random guy who just has the night of their life, and they'll never have that night again. But against us, they have a career night. So
And look, man, like, are you even surprised at this point? Like, and in the Garden, it's not even surprising, just because it is Madison Square Garden. Players like to perform there. But I mean, where this team is at this season, they're a highly rated team. People want to come out and compete and show what they're capable of. And so next thing you know, you get to see Mamu come out here, drop, what was it, exactly 34 points. I mean, this dude win. It is the shooting tonight for this man is absolutely insane. This man went 13 of 14 from the field, 7 of 7 from downtown. And not only did he do that, he got 9 boards and 3 assists and 1 steal. This man was a plus 22 tonight. Man was a plus 22, the highest plus minus. And I'm not even a big plus minus guy, but this is just ridiculous. And he came off the bench and did this all in 19 minutes. 19. This man's it's very rare to see performances like this, but a 13 for 14 type performance, this is 2K level type nonsense right here. Where it's like, if you score, like if you shoot over 80% tonight, you make 20 over 20 plus points, you get your little token.
it was like J.R. Smith in 2K. Like
Really was.
just on green. He was not gonna miss. And like even like Blake Wesley, I don't think Blake Wesley's that great of a player, but even he had moments. It's just like we're just letting guys just do whatever they want. Stephon Castle was, shot 50% from the field. It's just it was just one of those days where it's just like, all right, pack it up.
Pack it up.
Fellas,
Don't need to.
fellas, y'all didn't even drop me yet. Y'all didn't even drop me yet. But I keep hearing y'all say Mamu. I want y'all to say, what's his name? What's his name? Because the chat, they want to hear you say his name. So, Chris Allen, give me his name. Give me his name. Say his name.
Triple M still here. Appreciate you. Appreciate it for the call, my guy. Appreciate it for the call. But we're gonna drop you off now, all right? Shocking us while we're thinking we're just having a private conversation at this point on air. Appreciate you, bro. All right. So there was a whole discussion on how to pronounce this name. I'm gonna try it because Chris taught me. It's Mamu Kelish Vili. Mamu Kelish Vili. Is that it? All right. There we go.
Mamu Kelishvili.
Mamu Kelishvili. There you go. That's how you pronounce the name. That's how you pronounce his name. I'm butchering the living daylights out of it, but that is who this man is. And man,
Retire the jersey. Put it in the rafters.
someone better sign that one. He better get the game ball tonight. I know that. He better get the game ball tonight because that is these are absurd numbers that we're even talking about right here. All right. Once again, salute to Knicks Nation. Thank you all for tuning for another KFTV post game live. Knicks lost to the San Antonio Spurs 120-105. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. All right. Shout out to all the franchise channel members in here. I see Chuck D is in the chat. Shout out to Chuck D. Throw a hashtag PE in here. He gave us a $5 super chat. He said Azar was birthed. LOL. However, this was unacceptable. They didn't fly commercial sitting and coach to San Antonio. Salute Alex and Chris shaking my damn head, yo. Chuck's got a fair point, man. I mean, these guys do have to travel, But it was comfortable getting out to San Antonio, man. They got like the food. They leave in Westchester Air. I know they leave in Westchester Airport. I know where they're flying out of, man. They're on that Delta plane going out to San Antonio. They're chilling, and this is what you do, man. Come on now,
They got
come on.
killed so many pick and rolls where they just flat out just didn't guard. They didn't guard anyone. They didn't hedge. They
They
just
didn't guard anyone.
it gave up. And it was crazy just how many times they just Spurs just pick and roll us and just easy layups or easy jump shots, 3-point. It was insane how many
You,
times I saw that.
you know how I knew this game was going to go sideways? It was in the second quarter when Josh Hart got extremely frustrated after he bricked. And I was like, first of all, the way that he shot that ball and hit the backboard, I thought he was about to break the backboard. Let's keep it a bean. But like, I was like, all right, this man's frustrated. He's not locked in tonight.
It
We
wasn't.
ain't doing it tonight because he has to be the guy locked in, especially like Deuce is always going to be locked in defensively. I know that Mitch is going to be locked in defensively, but the certified X factor on this team, the Mr. Do Everything, the guy who plays with 130% on every single given night, when he is not locked in, giving 130%, you can kind of tell that it's going to go a little sideways, man. We saw that against who was it recently? We saw that against what was the most recent team that we lost to? The Warriors. When he didn't have a good game against the Warriors, you're like, we just need a few points out of him, man. He gave us a goose egg, but you talk about getting us a few points. Knicks probably come out victorious in that matchup, man. But that was just not the case. But shout out to other franchise channel members in here that we got. All right, we got Rare Edition in here. We got Junior Karoma. Shout out to you. Triple M, who was just on the line. Shout out to you, my man. Shout out to JJ. Shout out to the Chief Mod Operation. Shout out to TM. Shout out to First Lady of Sports. The original man is in here as well. Shout out to Cowboys. Shout out to you. All right. Shout out to everybody who's in here right now, vibing with us as we're breaking this thing down. Let's keep this show rolling, man. Let's get back to the lines and let's get back to talking to the people. Yo, Knicks Fix, unmute your mic, my man. What's going on? Knicks Fix, are you there? Knicks Fix going once. Going twice. Damn, bro. Lost, man. 3 strikes. You out. Nah, I'm not just kidding. I'll give you another try in a minute. Anthony, are you there?
Yes, sir. What's going on, Alex, man? Chris?
Always ready. Always ready. That's what I like. That's what I like to hear, man. Anthony, how you feeling, man? How are you feeling after watching this game? Did you want to see some Tyler Kolek?
Bro, I'm livid tonight. I'm gonna stay calm, but I'm livid, man. For me, the lack of a floor general is what happened tonight. I don't want to hear the travel stuff. That's not an excuse for me, at least.
Mm.
Our offense was just stagnant, unwatchable most of the night, to be honest. Unfortunately, when our offense looks like that, our defense suffers. It shouldn't, but I mean, we let Sandro, Manu, Kovalaselli, whatever his name is, score the most points by a player with less than 20 minutes in NBA history. I think Triple M said that. I had to look that up. It's so true. I thought Josh was terrible tonight.
Mhm.
Mikal was back to his timid, unsure of himself, shying away from contact at all cost. I mean, I'm tired of that wishy-washiness with Mikal. I mean, you know, Chris said it a little while ago, and I totally agree. And Alex, we spoke about it with JD the other night. Put Tyler Kolek in the game, bro. Put him in the game. I mean, the kid, you could see. I mean, like I told you guys, I watched him a little bit in college, but the kid can create. He could get into the lane. He can finish. He can do things that Campaign and Deuce just that's not who they are. You know, and I don't know what Tibbs is doing with the rotations. It's really, really, really frustrating when we have these championship aspirations and it's like Mikhail being like that in terms of his tibbiness and unsure and no confidence. How do you expect to go up against a player like Jalen Brown or Jason Tatum or, you know, I mean, Donovan Mitchell? I mean, how do you expect to compete against these dudes, man?
Do you think part of it is them being tired? Anthony, or do you think it's just like them just needing to be a little more aggressive?
You know what? I think personally, bro, I get they could be a bit tired. That is true. I mean, at the end of the day, they're human.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to see a competitive edge. I want them to play with the competitive edge like you see Josh play with most of the time, where
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he doesn't have all the talent that some of these players in the NBA have in terms of ball handling skills and finishing at the rim or playing above the rim, shooting from the perimeter, but he plays with an edge. And a lot of times I don't see that from Mikal. I don't see that. Sometimes I don't even see it from OG. And that frustrates me. Cat as well, sometimes they get it in them and they're like, you see them go off. We see it, and you're like, holy smokes, like, whoa, what a game. But then you have a game like tonight. It's like we weren't ready to play. We weren't coached well. The rotations were atrocious. And the more frustrating thing for me, and I'll end the call, man. I appreciate you guys, is you put Tyler Kolek in with a minute 47 seconds to go. What a way to build that kid's confidence.
Mm.
Um, it's frustrating, man. So I'm gonna end it at that, man. I could go on and
No
on,
doubt,
but
man.
I could go on and on, guys. But I
That's
appreciate
a
the call,
frustrated
fellas.
Knicks fan right there. Appreciate the call, Anthony, and I feel the
You know
frustration. Oh
I
man,
am.
look, it is. Look, you could just hear it in Anthony's voice, man. He's frustrated. Calling Tibbs out, saying he doesn't understand the rotations. Which, hey, I'm in agreement with. There were some rotations out there. I'm like, why we got this? I feel like I saw what was it? There was like OG, Mitch, Cat, and then I saw Cam and Sham, and I'm like, what is this? I was like, and my thing is like, and this is why I understand the call for Kolek, right? Because you see a game like tonight where you have campaign running point, and you're like, all right, you're the point guard. How about you set the guy who was just, scoring the most for us up? That's what we need. He is the only guy that has it tonight. Let's get him rolling. Let's get him back in this game because every time he touches the rock, it's more likely than not that it's going to go in or he's going to get to the free throw line. I mean, he literally went to the free throw line 8 out of 9 times. And there are just some games, man, where you can just watch one player and they can literally will a team to victory. We've watched that with Mel. We've seen Brunson do that. There are players who are just that talented offensively that can do something of that nature. And this is where, once again, I say I understand why Kolek is called for because campaign's not setting him up.
Right, look at
Literally not setting anybody up. Instead, what we're watching is this man just like, there is not a shot this man does not like. And he just pulls the trigger and it's like, just he lets it rip. And I'm like, you're the point guard. If you were the shooting guard, I would understand if you're the shooting guard. But you're not the shooting guard. You are the point guard. And so this is where I understand where you want Tyler Kolek because this guy, as everyone's already pointed out, like Anthony said, you said, he's a pass first guard who knows how to get downhill and find guys. And it just makes sense at this point. This is why I thought he would get burned or like get some substantial minutes by December. I'm like, all right, outside of Brunson, who's capable of doing that, maybe you're going to get Kolek in there because he's the next guy that can do it. Deuce, he's giving us some flashes. You know, Payne, depending on the night, can show you that he can do that. Not tonight, obviously. But this is why you want someone like Tyler Kolek in here. And my only thing that I think of like why he's not getting minutes is because his defense is probably not up to the standard of what Tom Thibodeau wants. But it's like at this point, you need the offense as we see for the Knicks moves better when there's constant ball movement. There's some fluidity to it. And we just don't have that consistently with campaign.
this is I wrote about it on Knicks Fan TV about Tyler Kolek. I think they like 4 guys the Knicks should target. Tyler Kolek was the #1 guy. All right. I did the draft show for Knicks Fan TV. I kept talking about if Tyler Kolek is there in the first round,
Mm-hmm.
when we drafted Pacome, I was like, let's take him there. I think he's worth it at a top 25 pick. And then we traded down and we got him there. And I was like, oh my, we're gonna get our playmaker on the second unit. This is a match made in heaven. This is exactly the perfect player. And I thought, all right, he might not get burned right away, because point guards, especially a second round point guard, is not going to get burned right away. Understood. But I'm like, with time, Kolek's going to pick it up and he's going to eventually get into the rotation. And it never happened. It's never happened, and, he had some games where he's played some minutes and he showed, but it's Tibbs not believing in him. I thought he would be like a Tibbs guy because he's gritty. I know defensively he struggles at times, but he's what we need. He is a playmaking guard who can get to the basket, attack, finisher both right or left, and it's what we need. And for him to just get 2 minutes in a game like this, and play 1 minute here, and it's just I thought he would be more incorporated because he's exactly what we need. We need a guy who's going to be able to create and get guys open. We have guys just standing around, and that's why the offense is so stagnant. We need to be able to create to get guys, and that's just not the case. And we're not letting him get that opportunity. We know what Campaign's going to score. That's all he's known how to do his whole career. But I just wish we would give Tyler a little bit more of a chance to see what he could do. He's going to have his ups and downs. He's a rookie. I get it, but you gotta give him a chance. And I'm been very pro Tibbs, but this is the one situation where I'm like, he gotta give him more minutes. We needed him, and especially with Brunson. With Brunson, I was like, oh, he's definitely gonna play more. And he's playing less. He's playing. I'm like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. We need more creativity, especially with Brunson out. We need be more creative. And I don't know. It's just Tibbs' offense is just because it's really not really an offense. It's not really, there's no plays ran. So, but I feel like Tyler Cole can do so much with these guys, get these guys open, get Mikal better open shots, OG, utilize Towns more and pick and roll. And it's just not the case. I don't get that aspect because like I said, I'm maybe because I'm just really pro Tyler Kolek and I really he could be a good point guard or at least a good backup point guard. I thought this would be the perfect situation for him, but man, I don't know. I don't get that. That's the one thing I truly haven't got this season is the utilization of Tyler because I feel like he could really help us when we need more creativity and more playmaking, and that's literally what he does best. Alex, I keep saying he led the country in assists in the Big East. Like that's how hard that is to do in the Big East. Player of the year, like that's I know it's college, but that's something. That in the Big East, that's something. That means something. 7.7 assists back-to-back seasons. Got to give him got to give him a chance. You got to trust him. You got to show more trust in him. But that's my only thing. You got to believe in Kolek more. Like it's just unacceptable why he's not playing more.
Well, Tibbs may not believe fully in Kolek, but you know what I believe in? I believe in some of these picks I'll be making on my bracket. So let's talk about our sponsor for tonight, DraftKings, and let's go to key stats of the night before we get into our sponsor. All right, but key stats of the night brought to you by DraftKings. And let's look at the game. Let's look at these stats tonight. All right, Chris, because ain't pretty, so we got to talk about them. But hey, as we all know, the Knicks lost 120 to 105. Knicks lost the rebounding battle. This is a big key to why they lost tonight. 52 to 44. Knicks tied the assist battle 28 to 28. They also tied the steals and the block numbers both 7 apiece each in both categories between both teams. Knicks did win the turnover battle 10 to 13, and this is where things went south. Knicks shot 42% from the field while the Spurs shot 50. Knicks shot an abysmal 30% from downtown while the Spurs shot a great 46% from three. And then you had the free throw percentage where Knicks won that battle percentage-wise, 76 to 70. And then when you start looking at points in the paint, Spurs won that battle 52 to 50, so they barely won that one. They barely won the second chance opportunities as well, 18 to 17. But the Spurs did win the fast break points battle 19 to 14. And so, as you see, like Spurs just, I usually don't say that the stats tell the entire story and how the teams won because the Knicks have, not necessarily won every single category or even like the important categories and still come out victorious. But in tonight's matchup, it looked like one team was dominating, and it certainly shows by that on the stat sheet. And that was the San Antonio Spurs tonight. So that's these are my key stats I took away from this game. What are your thoughts on the stats?
Yeah, the stats didn't lie. The stats didn't. Sometimes you hear like stats lie because you really got to. No, the stats didn't lie here. Like what you see on the stat sheet is exactly what happened, and you could kind of put that in your head and kind of imagine what happened. So yeah, the stats did not lie in this game. What you saw is exactly what happened. Mama doing everything. Guys were open, and it just, like I said, there stats didn't lie in this case.
Stats did not lie in this case at all. And you know what? You know what, Chris? You talked about not having trust. You got to believe when you come down to talking about NCAA tournament brackets, baby. You got to put those things together and you got to believe. And so when it comes to college basketball and March Mania, one thing is for sure, nothing's for sure. All right. Upsets, buzzer beaters, Cinderella's advancing, top seeds going home early. It's all going to happen. Bet the unexpected every upset every day with DraftKings Sportsbook. All right. With live betting, exclusive content, promos, and parlays, DraftKings is the ultimate college basketball destination for March. This is your first time? Here's something special just for you. New DraftKings customers bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Chris, CP decided to send the invite. We're all making our March Madness brackets. Okay, I was putting mine together, and this is the one thing you got to know when you use DraftKings. You can't use St. John's to advance too far. Right? They will not allow you to do that. But you can choose every other team. But putting these things together, man, I put my bracket together nonetheless. And I'm very confident that I'm gonna win this thing, man. In the KFTV Slack channel, I'm very confident there. And let me tell you something to all the Knicks fans out there tuning in. All right, you can bet the unexpected with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code KFTV. That's code KFTV for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. It's void in Ontario, so to all our Canada friends, sorry. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. All right? Make sure to go support our sponsor, DraftKings. All right, man, let's get back to the lines. Let's get back to talking to the people. Let's see if the Knicks Fix is ready. Knicks Fix, are you there now?
Yeah, bro. What's going on, Alex?
Not much, man. How are you feeling? I'm ready for I'm ready for your takes on this game tonight. How about that?
All right, man. This is what I was calling in for. I wanted to say, 3 points, three simple things the Knicks need to do. The first thing the Knicks need to do, man, they got to start Mitch, right? If you start Mitch and then you put Hart to the bench, Hart hasn't been scoring, man. He had 2 points tonight, 12 points against the Heat. Now you infuse energy off the bench with Hart. If you look on defense, he gets turned around. He gets turned around. Like we got to talk about his defense, man. Like it's not good in the starting lineup. So if you start Mitch, it's about that time, right? You should be ramping up on Mitch's minutes. So start Mitch, put Hart to the bench. What this does now is it allows Mikhail to actually ball handle more. So he becomes more of like an offensive threat. Now, the second thing I would do is this. Situationally, I read a stat and it said that JB, Deuce, OG, and Cat, that 4-man lineup is in the 98th percentile for plus minus. Just that 4-man lineup. So situationally, you can start Deuce and put Mikhail to the bench. Obviously, the Knicks aren't going to do that. They traded 5 picks for him, but that's an option. The last thing and the most important thing is what Chris alluded to. You got to play Kolek. The team doesn't have any like shot rate. There's nobody out there. Everybody that's out there is just jacking up shots on their own. Like Shamit shouldn't play. He's got 2 points in 21 minutes it was. Like these three things matter, man. And like this is why I keep saying, like, Alex, I've been calling since the beginning of the season. Like Tibbs not going to change. I think if this team gets waxed in the first round, he like heads will roll. But honestly, they're gonna. I saw Detroit. I keep saying this. If the Knicks play Detroit in the playoffs, they're done. They're done because they don't have the physicality to play with them. They're better off facing the Bucks and the Pacers. But that's my take, fellas, man. The first thing, play Mitch, bench Hart. bring him off the bench. Second thing, you could play Deuce over Mikhail situationally, and third, you got to play Kolek over Shamit. What do you guys think, man?
Appreciate the call, Knicks Fix. Appreciate you calling in all the time. All right. So Knicks Fix. All right. First and foremost, rate that call in the chat. All right. 5 being facts, 1 being trash. I want to know what everybody thinks right now because Knicks Fix said a lot. Okay. He said, look, you got to put Josh Hart back to the bench, put Mitch in there, got to go with the Twin Towers. All right. Then he said you could situationally do a McBride over Bridges for starting rotation. Third, you got to start Kolek, but then fourth, he didn't even want to rattle off the fourth because we've been hearing this all throughout the ESPN, airwaves, especially with Udonis Haslem talking, crazy up there, saying gotta watch out for Detroit. Gotta watch out for Detroit. All right. He said this team isn't physically ready for Detroit in the first round and would not be surprised if they get bounced. So there's a lot that's going on in that call, Chris. There's a lot that's going on in that call. What are your takes?
Obviously, I'm with him on the Kolek, take.
We can just check that one off. Kolek, yep. Said play Kolek. Yep, got that one.
The last one with the Pistons. I don't know. I know a lot of people have been big on matchups and the Pistons matchup specifically, and I don't know. I don't know if I'm stressing out about Pistons right now. I know Cade has been on a absolute tear, and he just hit a game winner today versus Miami. So, and he's had a few of those this year, and he's playing at an All NBA type of level, But I don't know if I'm completely like I'm not too stressed about Detroit right now because they're still a young team, and they still it's Cade and they got Tobias is there, and they got a sword. So they got some nice pieces. Then they are physical, but I'm not too stressed out about them. But what was the first two takes he said? There was someone playing over
Mitch. He wanted Mitch in the starting rotation over Hart.
And there was something else he said, I think.
Situationally, you could put McBride in as a starter over Bridges, but he said that's most likely not going to happen because you traded so much to get Bridges.
I don't think that. Yeah, I think I'd rather have Deuce come off the bench anyway.
I like Deuce coming off the bench. I understand his impact with the starters. I'm always of the you don't necessarily need starting. It depends on the player. To me, what matters most is who closes rather than who starts. Like that's where it matters most for me. But you got to stagger where you're getting your offense from. Like you can't have all of your great offense out there together because then it just kind of neutralizes itself. And the whole point of staggering your offensive players is so that way they can get into a rhythm and they don't have to be overshadowed by another player. Like if you're going to put McBride out there and you want his offense with Brunson when he's back and healthy, I don't see that necessarily working out all the time too well. And that's why you would want him staggered so that way he has that free reign to just get into a groove. Now with the whole Mitch as a starter thing, I think, I'm still going back to that's what Tom Thibodeau said not too long when, oh, we were without our starting center. I'm like, part of me says that's cap. Yeah, because I'm like, y'all want the 5-out spacing. There's no way you're trying. And on top of that, wasn't Mitch involved in the original negotiations? It was how about Mitch and Randall, Mitch and Randall, Mitch and Randall. So I'm like, I never believed that Mitch was never in this whole thing as the starting center, but with depending on the matchup, I think against a Cavs team and most teams in the NBA, I think if you went with Cat and Mitch as a starting rotation, that would work and it would solve a lot of the defensive issues that this team has, especially when you have Brunson and Cat at the two main positions and you need someone to really, mask Brunson defensively. So I wouldn't be upset about it and I wouldn't mind seeing Hart on the bench. I also don't mind Hart being in the starting rotation either. I think he's good in the starting rotation too. But I get wanting to go with the double big lineup, especially because you want more of that defensive presence just to secure up things with Brunson and Cat on the floor.
Because Hart has had some moments where he's getting blown by, and he hasn't been too great on defense. So I'd rather have him off the bench, and you can have Mitch kind of make up for that, especially with Brunson and especially in pick and roll situations, So
yeah, I don't think that's I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's completely fine to have Mitch in that starting rotation. And look, even with if the thought process is to where you have Hart who's dealing with knee issues and you want to like reduce his playing time a little bit and try to manage it more, then it would
Sure.
make more sense to have him come off the bench. You know what I mean? So I get all that. Now to talk about the Pistons thing, I'm not concerned about the Pistons personally. I think it would be I think each game would be tough. I could see it going 5, potentially 6, and I think just because of the physicality alone. But my thing is that that's a very young team that doesn't have any playoff experience, and all the guys that we're talking about right now, like on the Knicks, have playoff experience, and I think that's a very big critical factor in determining who's going to win a matchup. You know, and so, and especially when I look at the head coaches too, like Tibbs. You know, when Bickerstaff was on the Cavs, like he ran circles around him. So
Saying there's no
I'm not saying the Pistons will be a cakewalk at all, but I'm not heavily concerned about the Pistons because they don't have the playoff experience. Could they absolutely shock everybody? Sure, absolutely. But to me, I'm not necessarily that worried about the Pistons with the regards that they're gonna just knock out the Knicks like that.
I'm not. I mean, obviously, Cade is the focal point, right? You
Mm-hmm.
understand, mentioned before, all NBA type of season. Haven't we all knew once he was going to be healthy that he can be this type of player, right? That's why he was the number one pick coming out of Oklahoma State. Almost averaging a double double. 26 and 9, I think, around there. But are we really going to be stressing about Tim Hardaway Jr., Dennis Schroeder, Malik Beasley? They don't have Jaden Ivey. So like, are we really stressing about Asar's not there offensively, so we don't got to worry about that. Like, yes, it's a good. Each game is going to be tough because they're going to be physical and they're going to come at us. They're going to try to, Isaiah Stewart's going to try to bully us. He's going to try to do that. But maybe that's a series we need. But I'm not a series that I'm like, oh, that I'm just we might lose the series. No, I would feel we might need it. We definitely need it because then we might need to get punched in the mouth a little bit. But it's not a series that I'm like, oh, we're gonna lose because I'm just not. There's no one other than Cade that I'm really worried about. That's gonna, like I said, Malik Beasley, he's having a good season. Don't get me wrong. He's shooting the lights off the ball. Having a tremendous season. But Tim Hardaway, Dennis Schroeder, those guys are not really worried about. So they're a year away. Maybe next year when they can, maybe they get some more pieces and guys develop more, and Jaden Ivey. But right now they're still a young team that still trying to figure out things. So, but they're ascending team. That's definitely they're gonna be. They would be physical. It'd be a physical series. But I'm not worried about them. I don't think they would beat us. I think we would win in 5 or 6 games.
For sure. Shout out to Tristan Clement with the $10 super chat. He says, we need to stop calling them the Twin Towers. All right, man. What should we call them then? You let me know. You let me know what we should call them, all right? You're saying we shouldn't call them the Twin Towers. What do you want me to call them? All right. Then we got shout out to Michael White. And we're going to you next, Michael White, because I do want to hear from you. Shout out to Michael White with the $10 super chat. He said, let's just blow off this game and hope Jalen Brunson gets healthy. We can't expect a change from Tibbs, and he won't get fired. So let's just hope. Kolek, I'm for him, but Tibbs will undermine him. Interesting. And you know what? With that super chat, let's go to the official Michael White right now. Michael White, I know you're in the building. Please unmute your mic. What's going on, my man?
Oh, I'm in mourning because this is the year
Morning.
I think that we
Jeez.
can win the championship, but we're not going to do it with Tibbs. I mean, he's not going to change. He's incapable of change. So Kolek will probably not get to play, and if he plays Kolek, he will undermine him so that he will not look bad. I'm just telling you, that's what Tibbs does when he's not ready to play a player. But I think that we should put Josh on the bench, and even if we have to play smaller, just do that. But Josh is good energy, so we can bring him in the second quarter, and I think we have a chance then.
And you would go with Mitchell Robinson in starting rotation?
Yeah, I mean, what do we got to? I want to win a championship this year. It's kind of important to me. I'm an old man, so
So you're going with Mitchell Robinson. You want to see Mitchell Robinson, Karl Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, and Jalen Brunson in that starting rotation with Josh Hart and Deuce McBride coming off the bench.
Yeah.
All right.
I can do that.
All right.
At least we got a chance to win, man. I want to win.
So you want to win a championship, but you don't believe in Tom Thibodeau. How's that work out?
Well, I mean, I don't believe in him. He's proven to us that he doesn't change. Everything got to change. The world changes. I see change every day, but Tibbs don't change, man.
Are you looking for a new coach next year? Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I know they won't change him this year, so yeah, nothing against Thibodeau. He's proven it. He undermines players when he doesn't want to play them.
I hear you, Michael White. I hear you. Appreciate the call, my man. Always appreciate you calling in. Have a good one.
All right, bro.
And this is like I know that like we got the Tibbs thing going on right now, and people want to see a change with Tom Thibodeau. I feel like he's still gonna get one more shot, man. Unless like it goes catastrophically sideways, man. Unless the thing that everyone talks about, where like, let's say the Knicks do lose in the first round, that's the only way I see him getting fired.
If they play the Pistons and they lose and get swept or lose in 5, then I could see like, okay, maybe.
Nah, well, heads would have to roll at that point, because you brought in this team to be a championship contender, and even if you think, hey, we're not even, I don't buy that whole thing where it's like they weren't expecting to compete for the championship this year. You put this team together, man. You were expecting to compete. You put in a lot of money.
Exactly. I heard that too, Alex, and I'm like, wait, no, we're trying to win a championship. They didn't make they didn't make the trade for Towns and trade 5 picks to Brooklyn for Mikal just to be like, oh no, this is just no. They went in there thinking, okay, we have to match Boston's starting 5. All right, how do we do it? We got to get our own starting 5 to compete to try to win a championship.
Right.
So like, no, we're trying to win a championship. But I don't know if they thought the Cavs would emerge. Maybe that took them by surprise. Like, oh, we thought we just had to worry about about Boston. No, wait, the Cavs are there too. Oh, maybe that, but no, they're trying to win a championship. They make those moves for championship aspirations. You don't trade your future picks down the line, 5 picks to for nothing. You trade for aspirations to try to win a championship. So I never understood that process, that thought process.
Right. I didn't understand it either. Let's go to Top Bunk Sports, man. Top Bunk Sports, what's going on, bro? How you feeling?
Shout out to you, Alex. Shout out to Chris, man. Shout out to KFTV, man. I don't know, man. Y'all might have hit it on the nail with this West Coast trip. Them coming back and them kind of feel tired and I wanting to play. But overall, joking aside, man, it was an ugly performance. I mean, shout out to Kat and shout out to Mitch for kind of being the only ones awake. Man, the rest of the starters were just horrible. And then you're talking about a guy in I can't even say his name. I'll just say Manu at this point. Just he had a career night. He had one of those nights where it was just like, you know what? I'm looking at a 43 and 24 team. The Spurs ain't got nothing to play for, man. And you got a veteran in Chris Paul that, regardless if they got nothing to play for, he's trying to amp these young kids up, trying to make them play as hard as they can. And you're playing against a good team that, regardless of what it is, they're good. You know what I'm saying? And it motivates you as a young player to go out there and show out and show that you can play good against these top teams no matter what team you're on. So he had himself a good night. I think it was frustrating on the fact that every time they were in a pick and roll situation, they put Cat in a tough position because Cat just didn't really step up to him. He allowed him to create. He allowed him to shoot. He allowed him to get space. And when he had space off that pick and roll, he was able to shoot the 3. And every time he shot it, it went in. And at some point, when they keep rolling to that same play, if you're Tibbs, if we're all looking at Tibbs, like, what are you doing to stop this dude? At one point, this dude was 5 of 5 from 3. At some point, you're like, you gotta stop that. You have to stop that. And he was what, 5 for 6, if I'm not mistaken, from the field. If I'm not like, I gotta look at the stats again. But at some point, if you're Tibbs, you're like, all right, listen, nobody else right now is going off but him. And this is a guy that really does. He's coming off the bench and he's having 34. He's having 34 points. That's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? And again, if you want to put it on jet lag, if you want to put it on the fact that these guys are tired, I get it. But damn, man, it's just disappointing to see that because you look at these teams on your schedule and you're like, yeah, these are must wins. Regardless of what it is, these are ones that you just have to take care of, wash your hands with it, and just move on. So hopefully they do take this loss and they go on to Charlotte and they're like, listen, let's turn it up because it doesn't get any easier from here. Then we got to worry about April when Jalen Brunson comes back. Hopefully that gives them a spark, but it leads into the conversation with Detroit, man. If you're looking at what Detroit just did against Miami, Cade hitting that buzzer beater to win that game off the backboard, and it's kind of getting them into momentum where it's like you gotta keep Detroit in the back of your head, man. You gotta keep them in the back of your head, and I do agree with you, Alex, to the point where it's like, listen, if Detroit bounces out in 5 and we lose to them in the playoffs, Tibbs gotta go, man, because this team, you're not here to just win a first round matchup. You're here to get us to the Eastern Conference Finals at least. And you haven't done that. Regardless of what the excuses are, you have not done that. So if you come into the playoffs with everybody healthy, there's a reason why Jalen Brunson is probably not coming back because you want to make sure he's 100% going into the playoffs and you get bounced out of the first round, regardless of what it is, you got to call for his job, man. So again, I can understand these guys being tired, but we have seen games like this where they have gotten blown out for no reason because they've been outplayed. If you look at tonight, the pace was just different. I put a tweet out in the beginning of the third quarter where I said if the Knicks want to make the largest comeback in franchise history, they have to play with the exact same pace that the San Antonio Spurs played with, and they didn't. And every time they kept cutting that lead to the point where it was an 8-point lead that the Spurs had, the Spurs just kept turning it up and they kept finding ways to score and the Knicks couldn't get stops. So when you can't get consistent stops and they're up by that much, they're just gonna keep scoring. They're just gonna keep scoring and it burns you out because you can't get a stop and they'll find a way just to, attack the basket and just move the ball and be quicker than them. So it's just one of those nights where the Knicks really didn't have it, like Chris said, and hopefully it's one of those things where regardless of what the excuse is, they can take notes from this game because every loss that we've had has been head scratchers and they've been heartbreakers. It's not like these are ones where we've been where you're like, we could let this pass. No, every game, every loss that we've had, especially with against the Cavs and the Celtics, you're like, damn, like if things could have been different if we had this or if we would have done this or if this player would have did this, maybe this could have worked. You know what I'm saying? So every loss is you have those questions in the back of your mind and hopefully guys can figure it out. Maybe having what you guys were saying where Josh Hart comes off the bench could possibly if Tips can make that adjustment and tell Josh, listen, you've been helpful for us as a starter, but let's see if putting you on the bench helps our bench, and let's see if we put Mitch and Cat together can be a difference maker because ever since Mitch came back defensively, it's been a win. So hopefully if we run that and we can get something defensively where it leads to our offense being a little bit much better, things could change. So let's see what adjustments he makes learning from this loss. But I appreciate you. Shout out to KFTV, man. Always doing a big shout out to you, Alex and Chris, man. Appreciate y'all.
Shout out to Top Bunk Sports for calling in, man. Rate that call in the chat, 5 being facts, 1 being trash. Let me know what you think about that call, man. Top Bunk had a lot to get off his chest, man. There was a lot to get off. He covered the whole spectrum of what went on tonight, man, and just talking about, expectations for this team and what we should see in the postseason. And look, he's not wrong in some of these things, man. He's not wrong, especially when it gets down to like what the expectations are for this team. But like for tonight, I think the frustrating part is this team, just the attention, it comes back to the attention to detail. It always comes back to the attention to detail. And, start off the show saying, hey, these guys it's a weird travel trip. These guys are human. These guys, there's going to be some days where you're just motivated to play, and there's going to be some days you're just not. Think about it, even if you're at your own job, right? There's some days that you're motivated to really just be on that grind. Other days you're just like kind of going through the motions. And that could have been a day for the New York Knicks today, man. But the one thing I will say is that, with the way that this team, the expectation for this team and where they're positioned right now, you just want to see that this team is putting forth their best effort to get ready for the postseason and just to learn new areas, especially without Jalen Brunson. And I think that's what's more the frustrating part is that it's one thing to get off the plane jet lag and also just be like not in it. It's a whole other thing just to not perform at all, especially for like the first like what? I guess you want to say like 18 minutes, maybe
Mhm.
more, right? This team went through entire quarter outside of Cat putting up a field goal. I'm talking about the starting lineup, and then with like 3 minutes to go, like that's when you start. That's when another person joins. I think that's the more frustrating issue, and that's like even the attention to detail. It's how do we create, how do we generate good looks, and that's not only on the players. That goes back to the coach saying, "Hey, these guys are clearly like gas. Something's not clicking. How do you give a helping hand to let these guys get easy points, man?" So it's a little bit of both, and you just got to figure. They need to figure that out. They need to figure that out because there are going to be moments in the postseason where things are just not going to be easy, and you just have to solve that Rubik's cube, man.
And just the fact that we talked about this a bunch. The guy Mamu just 34 points. Like you got to have some pride with that. Like we all know, we all played basketball where the random guy just hitting shots. You're like, oh no, you change your mindset and you're like, nah, I'm locking him up. Like he's not scoring again. Like this guy
Mm-hmm.
just hit 2 shots and because you're like, leave him open. And they just let him keep, hitting open shot after open shot after open. At some point, you got to be like, no, 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 I'm guarding him, locking him up, and they didn't see that. That's what bothered me about them. It's like it's one thing if you let Stephon Castle do his thing. He's one of the better young players in the league. I can understand that. But a guy who, like I mentioned before, Alex, he had 36 points in the last 5 games, and then in the month of March had like 40 or 50 points combined, and you let him drop 34 in 19 minutes and hit all his threes. There's a sense of pride you need to have, no matter how tired you are. I think like I mentioned before, if we're playing regular pickup, we're not letting that happen to some random guy who's hitting shots. We're gonna be like, no, I'm gonna lock him up. We're gonna guard up. That's the one thing I didn't really like it today. You lose, okay, I could take the L, but if you lose because CP3 had a 15 assist game or Stephon Castle dropped 30 and 10, I could live with that. Even if Barnes had a game, because Barnes is a vet, I could live. Look, Mamu catch Philly, you can't. No, 34. That just can't happen. I'm sorry. The guy he's a career just end of the bench rotational guy, and we just let him come. We just let him come off the bench and just embarrass us. Like that's the one thing that bothers me. Like that shouldn't happen. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm reading too much into that, but that doesn't sit well with me. That we let him just do whatever he wanted. He looked like he was Klay Thompson, Game 6 Klay Thompson.
Game 6, Klay Thompson is crazy, but
That should have happened.
that's the thing though when you have like the lack of 3-point defense that we have as this Knicks team, man, and that thing's got to get corrected ASAP, and hopefully with Mitch back, we start to see that thing start to drop. But even with Mitch back, we just allowed one guy, Mamu, to go 7-7 from downtown.
Open,
Sometimes
Alex. Some of them were like, "There's
wide open,
no one close. There's no one
wide
close,"
open,
and he's just chilling.
wide open.
Rotate the ball. All right, set. Boom, boom, and like I just couldn't believe it how wide open he was for some of those threes. It was insane. It was insane.
So let's. I'm looking at this vote. I'm looking at the votes right here for if the fans want the double big lineup and replace Hart with Mitch. 85% out of 436 votes said yes. Replace Hart with Mitch and get the double big lineup. 85%. That's a lot, man. A lot of you are just saying, "Hey, switch things up. We need to see Josh Hart back out on the bench." I got another question, TM, for the people because the Pistons. There's just too much Pistons talk at this point, man. There's way too much Pistons talk. So, is the fan base? Are you all worried about the Pistons? Yes or no? Do the Pistons worry you? Yes or no? That's all I need to know, man. That's all I need to know. But let's get back to the lines, man. Let's get to Richie Too Smooth. Please unmute your mic. Sayquizzy, we're gonna wrap it up with you before we get to our draft segment. Richie Too Smooth, are you there? Richie Too Smooth, going once, going twice. Ah, man. Come on, man. Gotta be ready. All right, Sayquizzy. You're up. You're up next. What's going on, bro?
You hear me?
Yes, sir. What's happening?
Uh, rough game. Like when I was watching that show yesterday, and y'all was like, "We about to go 0-5," I believe.
Oh man, don't bring that
I
up
was
right now,
like,
man. No one needs
I
to.
was like,
Don't pull the
"Oh,
receipts out on me, Sayquizzy. Don't pull the receipts.
Every time we say we gonna go 0-5, some reason the Knicks always find a way to lose. But it was just a rough start. Like everybody was off. I don't know if they was tired or not, but I don't understand because Cat scored like the first 9 points, so they ain't really do nothing in the first quarter. He did most of the work starting the game. Nobody else could score to help out after that. And then the lineup in that second quarter when it was Payne, Shamit, Josh Hart, Precious, and Cat, I'm like, I don't know about that lineup. Josh Hart don't look like he want to score today. We already know Precious ain't gonna score. Cat got the only hot hand. So that means what? We're gonna allow Shamit and Payne to chuck up threes. And it's like a flip of a coin. It's either they off or they on. We never know. And like we let this random guy go off. I ain't gonna lie. I was looking celebrating when he said he's from New York. At this point, it was looking so bad. I was like, shoot another one. Shoot another one. And they kept running the same play. I was like happy they kept doing it because I'm like, bro, Tibbs, you don't see this pick and roll. And what is a team that does this pick and pop all the time? Boston Celtics with Jason Tatum and Porzingis. And guess what? Jason Tatum is a better scorer. And then you got Porzingis that could pop threes too. And if you can't play defense on that play, how you gonna do it on Boston? Like that was terrible. Like we could say random guys always get hot, blah 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 this, but why is it always open threes? We always give up open threes. It's not like they contest it and they dribble in and they going crazy from like that. We just give up open shots and we be like, oh, he just got hot. But what about the guys from OKC when we played those 2 games? They just got hot randomly hitting threes. And guess what? It was open threes. In those games, I could understand more because you got Shea that you got to worry about. You got other players that you got to worry about. It's no Fox. It's no Wemby. So why does this guy keep getting open over the same play over and over again? That's what I didn't understand. And people voting for like if Josh Hart gonna get on the bench, I don't think it's gonna be this year. So I don't think they're gonna change it. They could try it. I say Tip should try it once in the blue, switch it up, but I don't believe he's gonna do that. We've been asking for Kolick, Daddy A to play for the longest because I'm tired of seeing freaking Shamit brick threes hitting all backboard, hitting no net. Like I'm tired of seeing it, but it is what it is. Hopefully we can bounce back next game, but I'm at a point where I'm just like looking like at the little things. Like, what do we get better at? The defense, yeah, Mitchell Robinson came back, so that's a good sign. But these other games don't really matter as much to me until we get to the playoffs because I feel like the 3rd seed we're gonna have, well, long as we don't go on a big losing streak, but that's all I really got to say.
Appreciate you for calling in, Sayquizzy. And look, always frustrating watching this team just lose the pick and roll battle and just see pick and pop after pick and pop, pick and pop. Very aggravating, very frustrating. I totally agree with that. And like, look, I don't fully agree that the season like we could just kind of like cruise, and not saying that we're gonna lose a 3rd seed. It's just that we still got the Cavs and the Celtics on the docket, and I'm interested to see what's going to happen there, if how they're going to play, because if we do get a game, then I still think it's a good test for the Knicks just to see where they match up. Even if it's a regular season game, I'd like just to see it close to give us a little bit of hope and just not get waxed as we have been the last couple of times we played both those teams. So I'm looking forward to those matchups before the postseason. There's still, as we said, we got 13 more games left, something along those lines. So there's still a little bit more work to be done, a little more things to iron out before JB gets back. So I'd like to see the team work on that before we start doing anything, or just roll right into postseason, man. There's still a little bit more to do. All right, Richie Too Smooth. Let's see if you're back up and running. Let me unmute your mic here myself. Richie Too Smooth, you there? Yo, what's going on, my man? How you feeling?
What's good, bro? Now I just want to give a take. This is gonna be a hot take, but I feel like low key we should we should take Josh Hart at the starting lineup, and I feel like we should give Pacom Dadier a chance in the starting lineup. Feel me? I feel like Josh Hart, he the type of player that we got to play him in spurts. Like we kind of could see when Josh Hart got it or he don't got it each individual night. So I feel like if he's coming off the bench, he's playing well. Then I feel like we play him for longer stretches. But I don't know, man. I feel like Josh Hart should be starting, and I feel like when Brunson comes back, I feel like we should incorporate Deuce a little more in the starting lineup also with him, because I feel like Deuce got it, man. He could shoot the three ball really well. You feel me? And I feel like right now, as of right now, also we should give the ball. We should let Bridges run point guard. I feel like we should force the ball on him. We should make him play make. We should make him, be a little more aggressive. And you know what I'm saying? The double lineup of the big man, I feel like Mitch, I don't think he would survive that. His knees, he's too injury prone. You feel me? But yeah, that's my take, man. What y'all think? And I feel like Cole could also play too before Payne, because Payne campaign, I don't know what Tips seeing him. I feel like Kolek should get down and get them runs, man. You feel me? But
Appreciate the call, Richie Too Smooth. Appreciate the call.
I don't know, man. It's crazy to put someone in the starting lineup that has barely played all season long. I don't know. I don't know if that's in Tibbs' MO to do something that drastic, to put Pacome, who hasn't played any significant minutes, to be like this late in the season. You know what, kid? You should be in the starting lineup right now. I haven't played you all year. I had no plans of playing you, but I'm gonna start you. I don't trying to win a championship here too. I don't know if that's gonna. I'm gonna bet that's probably not gonna happen, and I don't know if that's. Yeah, that was definitely something. That was definitely something. That was something. I don't even know how to finish that one. That was yeah.
Richie
Pacome,
Too Smooth. I need to know the location, the address, and the phone number of that dispensary, because that's got to be the best gas I've ever heard of in my life. What are we're gonna put Pacome Dadier in the starting rotation over Josh Hart? What? We didn't even go to. There's been so much on Twitter where there's been Deuce McBride. We're talking about Mitchell Robinson. We're going straight from Josh Hart to a guy that was injured, that has been in the G League, that hasn't done what? Come on, man. Come on. What's the name of that dispensary, bro? I need to know. Literally need to know. What is it? What's the phone number? What's the address? You can send it to me over IG, man. That's all I need to. I need to know. Truly need to know.
yeah.
But look, man, I think the other ideas, like you want to talk about switching up with the big man rotation, you want to talk about putting Deuce McBride, switching that up. That's fine. You want to say you want to allow Bridges to even be the initiator. That's all good. That's all dandy. Pacome Dadier is where I'll draw the line and say no.
I could see Bridges bringing the ball up, because especially we've seen sometimes he's bringing the ball up, and like I say, he can create at times, be like a secondary playmaker. That's, you don't need to bring him the ball up all the time, but he could do it at times. But Combe, that I don't even get that logic. Like, what makes you think that? I don't know why he thought that's like sensible. Like, what have you seen from Pacome that's like, you know what, we gotta get him in the starting lineup right now. There's nothing we've seen from him.
There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing that we've seen from Pacome Dadier that can just give you the justification to put him in the starting lineup, man. There is just no way that we could go from Josh Hart to Pacome Dadier. This is not even disrespect to Pacome Dadier, man. He has legitimately done nothing but been injured for most of the season. Literally, he is the biggest project. Literally, the draft guideline of what we did is to say this guy's a project at the wing. You want to talk about 4 or 5 years down the road when this guy's probably on his second, third contract with the Knicks, and we're like, all right, man, you get a chance right now, because you know what, Josh Hart, he's 35. He said to be out the league by now, man. He's probably pushing a wheelchair by Tom Thibodeau at this point from playing 40 minutes on a night-to-night basis for 82 games straight. But no, we are not going straight from Josh Hart to Pacome Dadier. Appreciate the call, though, Richie Too Smooth. Call back anytime, my man. Call back anytime. All right. We love hearing from everybody. We love hearing all the takes. But everything else you said, we can discuss that to the moon.
Everything
But
else was
Pacome Dadier, please.
Excuse me at Pacome. I wasn't a crazy Pacome guy coming out of the draft. It was questionable that we took him, but yeah, that was something.
Certainly something, man. Certainly something. All right. Let's get the legend himself up here. Let's get the legend himself up here, Chris. Let's talk to the none other than our guy, biggest supporter for KFTV right now, Chuck D. What's going on, my man? How you feeling, Chuck?
First of all, I got to balance out what Flavor was doing down there in San Antonio, cheering the Spurs on. So I'm on the other side, and Han Solo hit me up and said, "Yo, tone your boy down." I'm like, he ain't no Knick fan. I'm the Knick fan here. Yeah, man, that game was terribly unacceptable, man. I'm tight right now, man. Like, you know what,
Speak on
man?
it.
For everybody that called tonight, get a 5. Everybody made some sense. Even the last caller, man. I mean, it's like, like Disney World, man. When you wish upon a star type. I mean, this dude came, I mean, after a night like dude scored tonight, anything is possible, man. I'm telling you, man. Rapid fire, man. Anything is possible, man. Everybody get a 5. Everybody that called tonight making mad sense to me, even when they opposing. I'm trying, man, the game put me in the bizarro world, man. I'm wondering, I gotta get back to planet Earth tomorrow, man. So whatever the last, caller was smoking, man, it sounded legit, man, because this game was illegit. This game was terribly unacceptable, and I'm out of here.
All right.
Everybody gets a 5.
I appreciate you calling in, Chuck. Appreciate you calling in and supporting as always. See, man? Richie Too Smooth. What is the name of that dispensary? We all need to know, man. Or who's your connect? We need to know, man. We need to know now. All right. All right.
I'm just thinking of Pacome trying to guard like Jason Tatum and and Jaylen Brown. It's I'm trying to envision that. I can't even envision that.
It would be guarding Tatum. Man, I don't even want to think about that right now. Please. I don't want to have nightmares. I would like to go to bed in peace tonight. All right, Chris, let's get into the the special edition portion of this show. Let's get into the draft. We got March Madness starting tomorrow. All right. And I know there's a few players that we should be on the lookout for this tournament, especially for the Knicks being having a second round pick. And let's start off with Alex Condon. You know what I mean? Let's start off with him. I know he plays for Florida. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, he's a rising prospect. He's 7 foot. He kind of somebody brought this up. He got some Hardenstein in him as far as being like tough and just having that attitude. And that's something you could use as a big, and he could block some shots. And he's come on late. Florida's the number one. They got a number 1 seed. They're one of the best teams in the SEC and in the whole country. So he's someone that I think he he might not be there, and I think we have like it would be like in the 50s. We have 1 second round pick. We would have 2, but we lost it in the Brunson tampering stuff. But he's someone that's really intriguing. I think he could possibly be there in the second round, and he just has great tools and possibility, to space out the floor with shooting too. So he's someone I'm really intrigued about, and I like a lot. And big reason why, Florida has had a tremendous season this year.
All right. So I think he's interesting. I was reading with Kevin O'Connor. I liked what Kevin O'Connor said. He's like he put down in his like draft profile like another Isaiah Hartenstein. So that intrigued me, especially when we talked about the intriguing passing that he has. I do like hearing that type of stuff, and especially for the Knicks where we miss somebody like Hartenstein, and it's not necessarily that. I mean, yes, part of it you could sell anything to a Knicks fan. I feel like if you say Isaiah Hartenstein is like the draft comp, but I do like the idea of a big that can initiate, that can do a little bit more than just like be an efficient scorer and just grab boards. I do like what Hartenstein offers. I mean, you can just see what he does out for the Thunder right now, right? Even initiating the break. You talk about that for Alex too, what he can do. So I'm very intrigued by that and his draft profile. Let's talk about another draft prospect. You know, that's a good one that we should talk about here is Ryan Kalkbrenner.
Ryan Kalkbrenner, he's Big East defensive player of the year. He's 7'2", 7'3", blocks everything. He's just so he's just a space eater, and he's going to be able to just his presence. It's kind of like with Zach Edey, like the simple fact that he's there is going to affect team ability to get to the rim. So that's what I like about him. I think there's a world where he can shoot it a little bit too from deep. I think it's there. It's not all the way there. Like he doesn't shoot a great percentage, but I think it could get there. So that's something like he just blocks everything and he rebounds. So and he had a game earlier this season where I think he had a 40-point game, 40-point double double. So there's some scoring there in the interior. And nice solid passer too. So he's another big this class has a lot of intriguing bigs, especially in the second round. So that's kind of my thought process, was thinking about, all right, we could probably get, I know it's the late in the second round and people are probably like, who cares? Doesn't matter. But like more than ever, second round picks can still be valid. I mean, Mitchell Robinson was a second round pick, that we wound up getting, and he probably should have been one higher if he actually played in college that year. So getting those type of, there's a lot of these type of bigs in this draft, and Kalkbrenner is another one. He's a vet. He's played forever. He's 23, senior, so a lot of experience. Played in obviously the Big East. He's played against some of the best bigs in the country. So I think he can come in and do something, and especially blocking shots and potentially even shooting a little bit from deep. So he's
Now,
very prospect.
now you did mention that's why you're intrigued by bigs this year. You mentioned another one, Zvonimir is Ivizic. Did I pronounce that one right?
Ivisic. Ivisic.
Ivisic. All right, there you go. See, man, I'm butchering all these names. Ivisic. All right.
Oh, so he's the ultimate like realistically, he probably is like a first round. He's a first round talent. He's like a top 15 talent. Like he's super skilled. Like he could shoot. He's so skilled, but he doesn't play enough because Coach Cal, I don't know. This is my thing with Coach Cal. He's weird with his bigs. Very weird with his bigs. He'll play them and then he won't play them. It's just one of those weird things he does. But he's one of the guy that I think is more of a project guy. But in that late second round, I think this is where you would take a project big. And like I said, he can shoot. He could block shots. Not the greatest like rim protector, but he could, but he's solid enough where if you develop him, he can. I think if you could figure him out and piece him together, I think you can get someone like a really good, like someone that you would have taken in a lottery. Like he's that type of player for me. So if you figure him out, but since he doesn't play. You look at his minutes, it's scattered. I don't, and it's crazy because he didn't play a lot at Kentucky when he was with Coach Cal. Then when Coach Cal went to Arkansas, he went with Coach Cal, and everyone was like, "Why? He didn't play you there, and then he's not playing you now." So I don't know. I don't know if he's got if he's got information that we don't know, but I don't get it. But he's someone that's one where you just like it might be worth a shot to just be like, hey, let's see what we can get, and maybe we can get a really good player because I think there's more to like with a lot of Coach Cal guys, there's always more than what we see. Like we see it all, how many Kentucky guys we see like why did Devin Booker go 13th? Why did Shea go after 10th? It's like you wonder why certain guys like that fall like they don't see full potential. And I think Ivicic is one of those guys where I think we can, he's gonna go late, but you might get first round value, in a few years, for him. So I think that's one where it's a shot in the dark, whatever that saying is, but you could potentially get something really special out of that, even in the second round.
So with the Ivisic, right? Like, do you like where would you stand then? Because do you think he goes first round? Because that's kind of what I'm getting from you is like this guy should be a first round, and really it's
Could be, but I think he's gonna go in the second round. I think he's
Okay.
in the second round. He's a first round talent, like the pure talent, and he may be able to kill it in the combine, and people just be like, "Yeah, we're gonna take him late first round," but he's
Mm.
probably gonna go in the second round. I don't know if he'll drop that far down in the second round, but I think if he's there, if he's there at 50, whatever pick we have in the 50s, whatever, if he's there, I think it's worth a shot. If some of the other bigs aren't there, but he might be worth a shot, and someone in a few years that you might be like, damn, we got him in the second round. Like this really good value. It's ultimate boomer bust, and I think at that point in the late second round, it's worth a shot.
Okay. Let's talk about the UConn product, man. Let's talk about Alex Karabin. What do you think about him, and how could he help the New York Knicks?
We need a wing. We need wings that could shoot. We need winners. He provides all that. He's he came back. I thought last year I had a first round grade on him last year. I thought he'd be perfect, for the Knicks. I think I even wrote about him, potentially, being a draft target. And a little bit of a about up and down see, but that's because the team is the Yukon the last 2 years, they were like a pro team. Like they had everyone was a pro. Like they were just a dominant team. But this year's different. They didn't have the same roster. So the play wasn't as good, but still a 6'8" guy who can absolutely shoot it. Someone that just it got all the intangibles you want. So I think, I don't know if he's gonna be that. I kind of doubt he'll fall, where we'll potentially have our second round pick. But if he's there, I would definitely entertain taking him, or even trying to get another pick to get him, because I think he'd be that, be that important for us, coming off the bench. Like I said, depending, I know Tibbs is and stuff, but he could shoot. He could shoot, man. And a 6'8" guy that can shoot, I mean, you need those guys. Those guys are valuable, and those guys could play 10 years, So I think Carabin's that type of player.
Now you talk about that he can shoot. I think a little bit that I've been reading on him is that his defense is a little shaky. Does that concern you whatsoever, especially with this Tom Thibodeau led team right
That's
now?
why he's probably a late second round pick, and maybe not the ideal fit, but but the shooting is that he can shoot off the dribble, throw off the like his shooting is he can shoot at any capacity. Then that's it. The defense isn't great, but to me the shooting is what you need. You know, so that's why I think if he's there late, that could be a consideration. But yeah,
Does
the
he
defense isn't great.
does he give you anything else? Because I feel like if you're going to justify just bringing a shooter, there's got to be a little bit more.
Not much, not much. But he can shoot, and that's
He can shoot.
really good at shooting. He's a really good shooter, But yeah, he lacks a lot of other things. Not the greatest athlete, but still he can shoot the lights off the ball. So
All right. All right, let's go with the last one. Sion James, the Duke product. What do you think about him, man?
he was someone that probably wasn't on anyone's draft radar. He transferred in from I think he went to Tulane and he transferred to Duke. And obviously you think of Duke, you think of obviously Cooper Flag, Conca Kalm out. So you think of all those guys and you're not thinking about Sion, but I'm a Duke fan, so I watch a lot of his games, and he stood just as much as Cooper Flag stood out. Sion James stood out. He's 6'6". He's a wing. He was known for being a great defensive player. Think about if Deuce McBride was 6'6". I always say this. Think if Deuce was 6'6" and could shoot. That's how I comp, Sion James. Like he's that type of player. Like, and the shooting was the one thing that like, all right, that swing thing. Like if this guy can ever shoot, he can be a draftable player. Can shoot the ball. And they kind of told him like, you're a point guard. They let him get the rock and he flourished in that role too. So he can handle the ball, he can guard, he can lock up. I mean, he's one of the big reasons why Duke is one of the best defensive teams in the country. So he could lock up. The shooting has improved. He's someone that, like I said, was not on anyone's draft radar before the season. And now he's, I see everyone have him in that 40 to 50, 55 range. So he's someone that I think, and he plays defense. So if Tibbs is still here, Tibbs loves that and he can shoot. I mean, I don't know if he'll play him still because we know Tibbs is stubborn, but if that'll give you a reason to play. That'll give Tibbs, Tibbs will have to think about it at least. You got to think about it. You got that, long, like I said, 6, he can guard multiple positions. He's just think of Deuce McBride if he was 6'6". If you can
So,
envision that, then you're like, oh, okay. And that's what you'll get with Sion James.
I think he's already starting in a few years. If you told Tibbs that right now,
Oh,
because he loves McBride, so I would expect him to, get that same type of like love. But all right, so those are some good draft prospects to be on the lookout for this March Madness tournament. I'm looking forward to checking these guys out, man, seeing, you know, how they perform, especially considering that they're, more so role players that we're looking at. These aren't going to be superstars, but I'm just intrigued to see how they perform in this tournament nonetheless. So it should be a good stuff. So appreciate everyone for tuning for another KFTV postgame live. Shout out to Chris for coming through and giving us some insight and giving us that draft knowledge as always. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Make sure to support our sponsor, DraftKings. Use that promo code KFTV, all right? Spend up to $5 and they'll match, and you'll get up to $200 in extra bonus cash to go make some bets, man. That's only for first timers, so remember that, all right? Those are only for the first timers. And shout out to Knicks Nation once again for tuning in. Shout out to all the franchise channel members, man. I see, who else we got in here? Who else we got, man? Who we see? Is this R Narnier? Is that R Narnier 89? Shout out to you for being a franchise channel. Shout out to Zach. Shout out to my guy Jamaica Queens. Shout out to Rare Edition as always. JJ, shout out to you, bro. Shout out to the regulars in here. I see Barbara Carroll in here. I see KG Sevenfold. Who else we got in here? Oh, shout out to all the mods too. Shout out to Above the Rim. Shout out to our guy as always, TM, the Chief Mod in Operation. Keith Turner in here. I see you too. Shout out to Respect Shaq. Shout out to you, man. Shout out to you for being here as always. All right. And remember, if you can't catch these shows live, there's two things you can do. You can always be part of the replay gang. All right. So you can always tap in that way and make sure to tune in and catch everything that you missed. All right. Or you can tap into any of the audio listening platforms. We're on Apple, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon, Alexa, Stitcher, you name it. We are there. Also, make sure to tap into the newsletter. Chris, we got Jalen, we got Remy, we got Omar, we got Jeff. We got a lot of guys who are contributing to the newsletter, so make sure to go over to Beehive and look for that. All right, and before we get out of here, let me salute to some of the other super chats. All right, don't want to forget about anybody else. Shout out to Omega Rex 73 for the $10 super chat. All right, it says from 411 to 947, 12 missed shots. We got 14 games to clean these unwatchable droughts up. Losses happen. Let's adjust. See the marks of a championship team, yo. Let's go, Knicks. Hard body. All right. All right. Shout out to you, man. Shout out to Omega for that super chat. We got some other super chats as well. More. We got another one from Michael White. Another $10 super chat. He says, Tibbs plays bad rotations to prove he has to overplay his starters. That would be sick and twisted. I'm not even gonna lie. That's got to be the sick and twisted thing I've ever heard. You're telling me that Tibbs is like, you know what, McHale? I'm not gonna play. I'm not going to play all you guys in the proper rotations because I need you guys to play the most minutes possible. That's wild. Shout out to Chuck D for another super chat for the $2 super chat. Says every caller tonight gets a 5. Damn. And we heard Chuck, man. Chuck was upset, flabbergasted, stunned, shocked. I mean, got to do a better performance than you had tonight, man. Got to show better than what you did tonight. And shout out to Sayquizzy for the $2 super chat. It says, I think we should start Carmelo over J Hart. Now we're just asking for anybody, man. Now we're just asking for anybody to start over J Hart. Hell, we're going to start Chris. Actually, better yet, CP. I know CP's been working on his free throws, man. CP's now getting the start over Josh Hart next game. Be on the lookout for that one in Charlotte. CP will be in Charlotte, man. That's actually why he wasn't on the show tonight. He was getting some well rest for tomorrow's game. Knicks Hornets. All right, everybody, you already know what to do. Make sure to tap in tomorrow's play-by-play and make sure to tap in tomorrow's post-game live. All right, we got another one, man. Second leg of a back-to-back. You already know what it is. Appreciate you all for tuning in once again. Make sure that thumbs up button for your boys. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. We out.